LS540. And today we're going to do a presentation that comes from our textbook. It's the first chapter. The title is Becoming Multicultural Service Library, a guided journey to serving diverse population. And what I will be doing, I will be reviewing some chapters that I consider very relevant for the content of this class. And this one, the first chapter, I think is very nice because somehow it ties everything what we have done so far during the semester. Okay, when we did the scans, issue scans, and then we did the community scans, what we were doing is becoming multicultural. What I was trying to do, and I don't know if I did it well enough, was to make us aware that we are part of a diverse society. Okay, so I think this chapter by Walker and Paul Petty, it's very important because it ties every component of what we have been talking so far. In the next weeks, I will be reviewing and lecturing on other chapters too that I think are important for our coursework. So in today's lecture, we're going to talk about becoming multicultural. Of course, this is an adaptation of chapter 1 from your textbook, and you have my own personal comments and experience, but I'm following more or less what it is described there in chapter 1. The first thing, and they call it skill builder, cultural competency, and I think this is very important. And when we did our scan on issues and on the community, what we were trying to do is become cultural competency. I think the first step to become multicultural, to be aware of the diversity and our multicultural society, is to realize that fact. And one way to do that, of course, it's going out of our own group. Being this a primary group, such as a family, or a larger group, such as our church group or community group. We have to go out of that zone, which is the comfort zone, by the way. It's our comfort zone, is the people we hang around with. Well, if we want to be aware what's outside our group, we have to go and see them, and we have to interact with them, and then we will become aware that we are part of a multicultural society. And I think that's very important for librarians today, and also many other professions too. But of course, I'm only concerned with librarianship, and I'm so concerned with librarianship because I think I have mentioned this in other lectures. I think the library has to become the hub of the community. And in order to become the hub of the community, to be at the core of the community, at the center of the community, we have to be able to welcome different people, people different than what we are. Because if we go to the final analysis, we all share the same humanity. We may talk differently, we may eat differently, we may dress differently, we may believe differently in a superior being, but we share humanity. So we are all humans, and we have to be aware that not only the U.S. but every country in the world, or almost every country, I won't say every because absolutes are always not true, but most countries have different communities and are made of different groups of people. And in our case, in the case of the library, we have to aim at becoming that core institution in the community. Of course, I'm referring here mostly about school libraries, public libraries, and academic libraries. Okay? So one way is to be aware of other people, other groups of people. And they mention in that chapter that we can attend social and cultural events. We can go to other churches. Let's say you are Jewish. Why don't you visit a Catholic church or a Presbyterian church, or vice versa? The idea here is to see other people, to relate to other people, to interact to other people. And I think at the end, when we become multicultural, we will realize that in essence we are all the same. I think that's a great learning principle. At the end, in the final analysis, we share our humanity. Another way of becoming multicultural is to spend time with other groups. And this is very important because this is part of and this is what we did in the SCAN homework. We have to reflect and write your own reflections. Reflect and write them in a diary or in an essay. And publish that essay in the newspaper or in your library website. It would be very interesting to see something that comes out of from your own library, and how your own library is trying to become multicultural, and how your library or your library staff is becoming aware that there are other populations, that there are other potential users outside, and we want to bring them inside of the library. I'm very, very, and I said that already, but I'm going to say it again. I'm very happy and proud of what you did in your scans, in scans 1 and 2, because that's part of becoming multicultural. And some of the things that you wrote there, that you have written there, can be published in a local newspaper, for example. They are very interesting. And I said that before, but I'm going to say it again. I'm planning to do a research on multicultural, on libraries, because we have a lot of things to say. And the library have to be the place where all different cultures meet and get together, by the way. And this is something that it's difficult to attain, but we have to aim at. And that's not having, and I think that it's not easy to strike a balance, and I don't know exactly how to do it. But we don't have also to compare we don't have to just make services and programs from one group and then for another group and have them separated. No. I think the idea here is that even though we may have specialized services for our diversity, for our multicultural society, we have to aim at having those groups coming together and participate in the library activities. How do you do that? That's not easy. Because what I have seen in the past is that many libraries have special events, special services, and special collections geared to one group or the other group or different groups. But there must be a way in which we have to unite all the different groups in becoming one community. The idea here, and I think that's important, and it is my opinion, by the way, you may have a different opinion, is not to separate society in groups. On the contrary, by keeping our differences, we have to become one group, one society. At least this is my opinion. You may differ in this regard, but in my opinion, that's what we have to do. That's our moral duty as librarians. That doesn't mean, of course, that we cannot have special services, programs, and collections for a special group. Okay, being this group Latino, being Chinese, being children, being young adults, being veterans, etc. Remember, what I've been trying to do too is to use to conceptualize diversity, to operationalize diversity in a very broad manner. Okay, this is not only about cultural background or ethnicity. This is about real diversity, and we are all diversity one way or the other. Another thing that we did, and it's mentioned also in chapter 2, is the community assessment, knowing the population, knowing the people. And of course, one of the ways to do that is through observation, through statistics, through demographics, doing surveys, doing focus groups, interviewing, talking to people, interacting with people. That way, it is one way to, or these are different methodologies to know what groups are there that can be that are, if they are not already active users of the library, they are potential users of the library. They are our potential patrons. And the idea when we want to become a multicultural library is to bring those potential users, potential patrons into the library. And in that chapter they call them your target populations. Okay, so of course a community, knowing your community is the key here. And before this lecture, we went into more detail into community analysis, for example, and needs assessment methodology. So it is very important, and that was mentioned too in chapter 1. And here, of course, is needs assessment. Needs assessment is to know what information our potential users need. Why? Or what services they need. Why? Because we want to provide those services and those information sources to them. Okay. I was reading there that one of the services that the library might provide is connecting people that are part of the community with their families in other countries by using, for example, Skype, by using the computers at the library. That's a service that the library can provide to different populations, so they can talk to their family and friends in China or in Mexico or in Russia, anywhere. So that would be a good service that the library could provide by connecting family with that live here in the U.S. with family and friends that are outside the U.S. So that would be a great idea to do. So we have to know what type of information they require, and that's very important, but it's very hard to do too, especially because we're talking about people who are not active library users. Okay. It's easier to survey people who are in the library, but how do you reach people outside the library? How do you know what kind of information they need? Okay, well, it takes work to do a community analysis and needs assessment, but we have to do it. And of course, we have to talk to patrons. We have to talk to, and let me put it here. Oh, here it is: reach current and potential users and talk to them too. We have to visit the schools, we have to visit the churches, we have to visit the community organizations, we have to talk to people, we have to observe, and then we can have a good idea of what services and information sources they need. This is the key. If we don't know what they need, if we don't know what the information needs are, and if we don't know what groups are out there, it is impossible that we develop our collection and develop our library services to address the needs of that population. And there are many places where there is not only one group, there may be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups. Of course, we have to prioritize. Why? Why do we have to prioritize? Well, because we don't have we are limited in resources. We are limited in staff, and we are limited in funding resources. So we have to prioritize. However, the idea here is that we provide an excellent service to everyone in the community. So we don't have to favor one group over the other. That wouldn't be fair, and that wouldn't be diversity. If we are going to offer services only for one group. And remember again, diversity in the very broad sense. Okay. Please, every time I talk about diversity, I'm talking about, in my opinion, a very, a broad operationalization of diversity. Okay, it goes over ethnicity and cultural background. So we have to prioritize, but we also have to be able to address the information needs of other groups too. That's why at the beginning I was thinking that, and I was saying that we have to find a way. We have to find a way of not compare. I'm trying to say this word, but it's very very hard. It's a what I'm trying to say is not it's not trying to divide the resources in little boxes. Okay, these are for Latinos, these are for Asians, these are for gays, these are for all people, etc. There must be, I'm sure that should be done in terms of services and collection, but there should be also some services and some programs and some collections that are common for everybody. Okay, so we may have, and that's perfectly fine, and I totally agree with that. We might have special services for special groups. That's fine. That address specific questions for specific groups. But we have to have also services that work for everyone, and collections that work for everyone. Why? Again, because we don't have the resources. We don't have the staff to have one person specialized on Chinese sources, other in Thailand sources, other in Japanese sources, other in Germanic culture, other in Latino culture. It would be impossible. It would be impossible. So we have to have a plan. Okay, we have to have a plan, and the way to develop that plan is first know the community, then do the needs assessment, and then think carefully on what do you really need to develop in your library. Target population, and this is very important, and this is what I was mentioning before about prioritizing. You may have a target population that is not being served by the library. And that may be very evident in some cases, but it may not be as evident in other cases. So we have to decide which population is being underserved. And once we discover that, we see that, okay, we have this group of people here, and we don't provide any services or any information sources to them. Well, let's develop then services and collections for them. Okay. One way, and not this is not the only way, and we're going to have a lecture later on specific services and specific programs that we can have. But with the internet today, it's easier than before to make a group of resources, or to have, what I want to say is we can have in our website, in the library website, several gateways, like several entrances, not only in terms of language. That would be great, but we can only have, but in terms of resources. Okay, so, and how do we develop this? Of course, we need somebody who knows how to add content to the website. But if we don't have, for example, if we don't have in our staff a Latino or a Asian or a European or of each country, then we can have people from the community and help us to organize several gateways to our website. Okay, I always see that what I have seen is in some public libraries they may have Spanish and English, but I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough. We should do more, and with electronic information and with the internet, I think we are capable of doing more, and it's going to be less expensive. So, but let's go back to the slide. So we have to have a target population, and one way to do that is we have to see what population it's being underserved by our library. Then we have to review what library service we have, and of course we have to evaluate our collection. Okay, that's very important to see reviewing and evaluation of services, and reviewing and evaluation of collections. Why? Because we probably want to develop new services, and of course we want to develop our collection in order to serve the underserved population. Let me correct this here. Review other libraries similar to yours. Services and what I wanted to say is that we don't have to invent the wheel again, because many libraries are already doing this. Okay, so one way that we can go about reviewing and proposing new services and defining a new policy in collection development is looking at similar libraries with similar populations, okay, and talking to them. In my other classes, when I teach, for example, automation, I always tell the students that talk to other librarians to see what system works the best. Because they have the experience and they can tell you. Well, the same is true in this regard. It's a very good idea to talk to other librarians with similar populations, with similar target populations, and see how they have developed their services, their programs, their collection, and how they have reached those underserved population. That would be a very good idea to do. So please keep that in mind. I think this is very important. Staff, and this is also from but it's not easy to do, because as we know, it's not like libraries have tons of money to get international staff or to have a very diverse staff. So I think it's one way, of course, is or two ways is first, get your staff trained. Get them aware of the diversity. Get them aware of the multicultural society we're living in. How? Well, by doing what we have been doing. Okay. Secondly, of course, you can get some of part of your staff to learn a foreign language, Spanish or other language. But it's, again, because we're talking about a diversity in a broad sense, we have to be aware of other diversity too. For example, gender preference or church affiliation. So we have to be aware that other groups of people may have a different sexual or gender preference, and so we have to have, for example, collections that address their information needs. Okay, it would be better if we can have every diversity type in our staff. But that is impossible because, again, we don't have enough funding in our libraries. Unless it's a very large system. For example, a large academic system or a very large public library in a large city. But when we're talking about smaller libraries, we don't have enough funding to have staff or many staff. So sometimes we have to. It's only one person who is staffing the whole library, and they have to do everything. Okay. So that's a problem. So one way to overcome this problem is to get people from the community, from the target population, involved in the library activities. Okay, not only to, and here it says to review, but I also would say to create and review services, and let's put here collection evaluation. That's one way to overcome the problems with funding and lack of staff, because training, it costs money too. To train people to become aware, that costs money. To train people in a foreign language, that costs money and takes time. But if we get people from the community involved in the creation and reviewing of services and collection evaluation, then we're moving one step ahead. I think that is very important, and that may be the key in many situations in our libraries today. So please make sure you think about this. How do we reach the target population? Well, to me the most important is this one. Engage people from the community. Go and talk to them. Invite them over to your library. Have a special event, in your library. So they know that you, probably they don't even know you are there. And probably they don't know you want to reach them. Of course, you can use media, use the local newspaper to disseminate information about new services and new collections, and use social media too. Such as what? Facebook or Twitter or any other social media available to you. But I think the most important thing is to engage people from the target population or from the target community, and invite them over to your library and have a special event, one night, a week, or one night a month, depending how the population that you want to target and how many groups do you want to target, depending on your plan. The idea is to have a plan here that you have developed by doing your community analysis and your needs assessment. You have defined your target population, then start out and reach that population and make them come to the library. And once they are inside of the library, then you're going to get the information from them to develop your services and to develop your collections. And they have to be an integral part of that library. They have to be part of the library board. That's very important, and I don't see that happening in many cases. So we have to think about this. Engage people and make people participate in your library. I think all of us who are in this class are very interested in doing this. Okay, that's why we're taking this class. So think about it carefully, and think about other ways. Imagine other ways or create other ways to engage your target population, your potential users, into the library activities that don't cost much money, because again the problem is, and don't take too much staff. Other thing that I found very interesting is create a diverse environment. and you may use different languages. You may use paintings, photograph, videos. You can have music too. Why not? And of course, you can display library materials that are of interest to the target community. You're not going to have music, 24/7 in your library, but in special occasions, you may have music in your library, and you may even have a dance in your library. Why not? That would be a great way to engage the community and to create that diverse environment. Make sure you display materials, paintings, drawings, photographs, videos. And where do you get these materials? Well, you get them from the community you are targeting. I mean, this is not a one-way process. This is a dialogue. This is a constructive approach, just like I always tell you that I do in my classes. This is a constructive approach. You're going to construct a collection. You're going to construct services. You're going to construct programs with the community. Don't think that you can do this by yourself. You're going to fail. I have seen many failed organizations and many failed libraries because they don't engage the community in creating these services, these programs, and these new collections. So make sure this is a interactive, engaging, and constructive process. To me, that's the most important thing we have to get out of this class. First, to be diverse aware, and secondly, that we have to engage the communities. Okay, any community that we know it's an underserved community, and we want to serve it, and we want to make them active users of our library, we have to engage them and make them protagonists of change. Okay, that's very important. In terms of services, programs, and collections. Programs, good, strong, well-developed programs that are offered to the community at large could also be tailor-made for the target population. Again, even though we may have differences, we are all humans. So if you have good programs, you have good collections, and you have good services that are being used and that are successful, well, you may tailor them a little bit for your target population, and I'm sure they will work well. Okay, so think about what programs that you already have in the library or in the potential library, if you're not working in one, and the one that you will work on, can you tailor for a target population in your community? That's another idea, and an idea that doesn't cost much money, because you have already a tested service. Okay? Think about that. Finally, you have to test and evaluate. And that's something that you have to do with everything, in every institution. You have to evaluate and assess your programs, your services, and your collections. And one way to do that, of course, is, again, using your community, your target population. Once they have become active users, you have to let them evaluate and review what you are doing and how you can improve. And that has to be part of your plan, of your strategic plan, your library's strategic plan. Because the idea, and we have to be very, I have to be very strong on this. The idea is for our library to grow, is to be better, is to become a stronger institution. And the only way that we can do that is evaluating, having a plan first, then developing the plan and evaluating the plan, and then changing course if it is necessary. And again, here the input of the community is the key. We cannot evaluate by ourselves, just as we cannot develop by ourselves. We have to incorporate the target community. We have to incorporate our potential users so they become active users and they become part of the library. They become vested and they are interested in having a better library. Why? Because they realize, this is only human, they will realize that the library is providing them with access to information. And it is addressing their information needs. Okay, thank you.